but that's why we have people who
Okay, I just told Chris we're moments away. He's in his sick bed.
So I'm not seeing it on Instagram.
Okay. Where's the camera?
The
No Instagram?
camera is in the computer.
I'm not seeing it on Instagram.
Okay, well, so he's gonna bring it. He's gonna put it here.
And if it's not, then let's just move on.
Yeah, we're not different.
Okay.
If we're on Facebook, let's go.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. You guys ready?
Yeah.
I'll check Instagram right now.
Okay.
Alrighty. Make sure to have your mics here. Ready to go? 3,
Testing.
2.
Test. 3, 2, 1.
I'm gonna leave this right here for you guys. Okay. Is this here good to prop up here?
Yeah, that's
for you
good.
guys.
That's good. We may need to move closer.
Yep. Perfect. Would this be better? Right here?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
You want us
Just a
to move
little
in?
lower, so there's not quite so much headroom. Well, okay. I got my
Should we
fat legs.
move towards the camera a little bit this way?
I'm sorry?
Should we move forward a little bit?
You guys can if you want.
I think you're fine, really.
Okay.
I think it's okay.
All right.
I'm
So-
gonna have to watch you do this like once or twice.
Perfect. Yeah, so we're ready to go. You guys are pretty much live now at this point.
Okay.
Jim, I'm told we're live.
I think we are. I'm Jim Sharp. I'm not only with KTAR Radio, but I'm also on the advisory board for the Homeless I.D. project. And next to me is the executive director of the Homeless I.D. project, Rick Mitchell.
Thank you, Jim, and pleased to be next to this guy. He's really something else. We had a great event before we got here, and you know I want to talk about that event a little bit. It was I would call that, Jim, a celebration, and I think what we're about to experience here is going to be uncomfortable and more of a meditation than a celebration.
Right. No, and it was uncomfortable getting here, by the way, because we
Yes.
started off in Tempe, and then we took the light rail, and then walked, I don't know, close to a mile or so to get here.
Right.
And we're here to, you know, of course, raise awareness for homelessness and talk about all the different, you know, the different organizations, the different partners that the Homeless I.D. project works with. But I also found it kind of interesting, the dichotomy in you and I meeting up, taking a Waymo,
Yes.
you know, in a luxury vehicle that probably has an extra $50,000 worth of electronic equipment on it, to then go to a celebration and then come and, you know, just spend one night living like people who have nothing.
Yeah, yeah, and even sleeping in these circumstances for one night, we're not in any way replicating. You know, there's a lot of privilege around this. We will get to go home tomorrow into our air-conditioned homes. But look, I mean, it's not about. I don't think it's about us recreating the homeless experience. It's about us getting a little bit of an understanding around it and sharing that with our community, so that we can think about it, give some thought to it, and consider what we might do about it.
Right.
And Jim mentioned partners. We've got a lot of partners here. Homeless I.D. project is we sort of germinated this thing, but there's a lot of partners here, and you'll hear from all of them if you stay with us on the live stream. St. Joseph the Worker. I don't know if Cass is. I don't know if Cass has signed up. I don't know if
Central
she's seen
Arizona
it.
Shelter Services.
Yeah. So Central Arizona Shelter Services, the shelter on the campus. We've got Susan from Chrysalis here, and I'm going to forget some names, but we'll meet them all as we go.
And before we go to our next guest here on the live stream, Sleepout Sleepout 2026, I wanted to mention that you can donate by going to homelessidproject.org, homelessidproject.org. There's a very big donate button right there. It's really easy to make a donation, and we're working to end homelessness. This guy to my right here believes it can be ended, and I'm starting to believe that too.
Yeah, I think so, and we can't do it alone, and
Right.
so go to homelessidproject.org and make a donation. But every one of our partners that will come in front of this camera and be interviewed by Jim or me or others, we'll want to give them an opportunity to tell you how you can donate to them as well, because we cannot do this alone. Look, you can't do anything without an ID, but once you have the ID, you've got to have all the other stuff, and so we're just here to help people get document ready and move them on to the other services, many of whom are represented here tonight.
So we're really glad you're joining us, and we're hoping you stay with us through the night, or maybe catch a nap and check in with us again a little later. I'm going to have to skedaddle around 3 o'clock this morning because I got to go do a radio show. But, and I've promised my partner on Arizona's Morning News that I am not going to take a shower before I show up.
Yeah. So Jim Sharp, KTAR Radio. It's going to be a hoot tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Tune in. So listen, I think you and I can come back for a little bit.
Yeah.
But we've got Tamik Walker Mitchell from the Fort Greene Project, and Tamik brought his family with him, and so they want to get home and get those kids in bed, right? So we're going to put Tamik on, and Megan is going to interview Tamik, and then we'll be back.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good. Come on over.
It's high-tech stuff as we do this handoff.
It's the changing of the guards. Oh, your phone. You'll be looking for that. All right. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. All right. Hello, everybody.
How you doing?
How's everybody doing today? I hope everybody's doing well. It is hot and late, but we're hanging in there, huh? We're hanging in there. My name is Megan Loden. I'm the development director here at Homeless I.D. Project, and I am joined by Tamik from the Fort Greene Project. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about your organization, what you do, how it came to be, the Reader's Digest version of your life. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. Okay. Well, thank you for having me.
Of course.
I appreciate this opportunity to share with your community and community beyond. I feel like this is going to be a viral moment, a viral night. It's always a pleasure to serve. So tonight we are sweating in the heat for the purpose of helping others, individuals and families overcome homelessness, poverty, and instability. So the Fort Greene Project, where did it come from? So as you can look at, our logo is buildings. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. I've lived in an area called Fort Greene. So I named it Fort Greene, and the project is just something that we are on a mission to help individuals, families, and communities overcome generational poverty and generational instability.
Sure,
So that's the whole point of this nonprofit, because I lived it, I overcame it, and I know it's possible, so I just want to help other people do the same.
That's amazing. And can you tell us about a couple of your big cornerstone activities, programs, what kind of an impact are you making in the community, and how in family, what's a typical day look like?
Okay, so we have 2 cornerstone events that we have. So we have, first is all our events is called Breaking Cycles, and the reason why we named it Breaking Cycles is because we are going to be the organization that connects individuals to real resources. And what real resources is that other organizations that's going to actually that's in their heart to actually do the work, and that they will help them break whatever cycle that they are going through. So that's why it's called Breaking Cycles. So the first event that we do every month is called Breaking Cycles Outreach.
Okay.
So what Breaking Cycles Outreach is we go to University Park on 12th Avenue in Van Buren every third Saturday. We go there between, I believe it's 12 to 4. And we feed the homeless, but we kind of feed the homeless in a different way. So we bring our own equipment and we set it up like a restaurant. So yeah, so we set it up like a restaurant. So we have about 10 tables vertically, and then we have 6 chairs per table.
Okay.
And we actually cook the food there.
That's amazing.
Yes. So we actually cook the food there. And we cook the food there for 2 reasons. So the first reason is, as we cook, they smell and it attracts them. So our
Smart.
so our guests, yes, so our guests and the individuals in the community, they come from the smell, but we also have volunteers that go out into the community and say, this is for you guys.
Sure.
This is not just us having a gathering in the park.
Yep.
This is for you guys. So we cook it so they can smell it.
Sure.
And then another reason why we cook it is because as they sit at the tables, we also have volunteers who serve them as waitresses, and we take their orders we take their orders and we get them the ticket. But as they are waiting 10 to 15 minutes for their meal, that gives the other volunteers that we have to sit down with them and have conversations with them, and also see what resources that they need. So as we trying to find out what resources that we need, we gather that information, and then when they eat, we have another section. It's called the Fort Greene Social Service Center, and then they bring the paper to us. We get them food bags that has food that can last them for about a week or two, and we get them a backpack with all different types of other people bring.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time, and we're going to turn it over to Jim Sharp, who is going to have a little chat with Carrie Masters. No, not yet. Not yet. Don't listen to me. Sometimes I lie. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to me.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Tamik.
Yes. Awesome.
Yeah, before we go to Carrie, and Carrie Masters is the CEO of St. Joseph the Worker, now called The Worker. I guess.
I still see St. Joseph a little bit there.
St. Joseph the Worker.
Yeah, The Worker.
Anyway, they do great stuff, and Jim is going to interview Carrie in just a moment. But I want to talk about the first time that you came down to the campus for a tour, because I would like those who are listening to us to have an opportunity to consider that maybe they should come down to the campus for a tour.
Yeah. So
tell them how to do that.
I'd actually been to the campus before, but covered it for a news story. But when I had a chance to walk around with you, I got real insight, and it was I realized how all these different nonprofits, service organizations are all working together to end homelessness. And as we were walking around, you were telling me what, and it was a fellow guy in recovery that told me about Homeless I.D, and he said, you got to go meet Rick and you got to go take a tour and all this. And it's the guy who's on the board. And I went down there, and Rick's walking me around, and once he explained what Homeless I.D did, I was like, you know what, this is a really important part of getting out of homelessness. It's almost like it's a linchpin, and Rick corrected me and said, no, it is the linchpin, but it's almost in some ways, because you can't get any social services, you can't get a job, you can't get an apartment, you can't get anything without your ID. But as you've pointed out many times tonight too, though, all these other organizations are needed too.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, one other thing we learned on the light rail ride here is that you may be asked for an ID on the light rail.
Right.
And if you don't have an ID, they may ask you to leave. So,
Yeah.
But at the same time, the people who were telling us this were also sharing their charitable side. One of them said that she carries a couple of copper cards in her pocket. If she finds somebody that is on the light rail that can't afford to be on the light rail, she will give them a card. So charity exists everywhere.
Yeah.
It's absolutely amazing. One of the important things that Jim said is that he had been down to the campus for a news story or two, or however many. And I think most of the time when people engage with the campus, they engage with an organization.
Right.
And CAST does wonderful work, and the campus itself does wonderful work, and Circle the City does wonderful work. But seeing how all of those organizations work together and the interrelationship of the pieces, if you would like to walk around the campus, get on the Homeless I.D Project website. There's a spot, I can't tell you right now, you'll find I want to take a tour.
Yeah. It's homelessprojectid.org. Where you
Homeless
can also
ID project.
What did I say?
You said homeless project. Okay, here's an easier one. HIDP.org.
Oh,
That'll get you there.
I had no idea.
Yeah, save some keystrokes. HIDP.org.
Anything that can save me some thumbs on my phone, I'm all for that for sure. There's another thing I have to say, because I've been around charitable giving most of my career, and I've seen, and I'm not saying this is the case with most charities even, but I have seen charities that are very territorial. They're like, you know what? We need to get what we need for us. But I don't get that feeling with the Keys to Change campus. You guys all work together so well, and it's. You've invited all these different organizations to be part of tonight. I love that.
And I think, if you buy into the scarcity mindset, like resources are limited, then as a nonprofit, I might be protective because I don't think there maybe is enough.
Right.
But I believe, and I think the campus partners believe, that there is enough in the universe. There's enough to twist anything they can help, and I believe that every Homo sapien, that's all of us, wants to help. Now, we don't all want to help Homeless I.D. Project. We don't all want to help any one thing, but we all have a need to help. And so giving people an opportunity to give, as Tanika was talking about, is really giving somebody an opportunity to exercise something that they believe that they want to do, that they don't know where or how to do, and this gives us an opportunity to help them find that.
And they might not even know where deep down inside that giving urge is, but
that's right.
Once you give, sometimes you're like, oh, wow, I got to keep doing this.
And speaking of that, before we turn it over to Carrie Masters, there are different organizations that have a match tonight. Homeless I.D. Project is one of them. So we've got a donor who has said they will match up to $25,000. We're getting close to that amount. And so one of our sponsor partners, Influence Logic, has said they've got another $5,000 that they will match.
Oh, wow.
So, and I think Carrie may have a similar story. So if I can get Carrie's attention.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'll go grab it right now. Why not?
So, I don't know how many people are out there. I hope there's a whole bunch of them. I know Chris Rich is out there. He's the chairman of the board of the Homeless I.D. Project, generally sits in that chair and interviews people, and he's a little bit under the weather. Jim?
Oh, am I doing this?
Yep, Jim's interviewing Carrie. Yeah, so here you go.
You know what? This is my day job, and now you're making it my night job, too.
Hey, mine too. What's going on with that?
And I promised I wouldn't do any of these guys.
Okay. I'm here with Carrie Masters with St. Joseph the Worker, and just let's start off with, what do y'all do?
Ooh, good question. I love it. So the Worker's been in the Valley since 1988. And literally, we were founded for one sole purpose, and that was to get homeless people jobs. And that's literally because our founders were the same founders of Andre House, the soup kitchen.
Oh, yeah.
And so what they did is they realized that same men coming to the soup line every day, and they started having these conversations and recognizing these were like men that were capable of work, wanted to work, but just didn't have a good start and didn't know where to start really, right? So they started connecting them to jobs, and then it turned into this. So we were actually functioning out of the back of Andre House at the very beginning. So what do? We help individuals struggling with quality employment, whatever barrier they may experience, and yes, a lot of times it can be housing insecurity or homelessness. We help connect them to quality jobs, which is paying over $18 an hour, offering benefits, and upward mobility. So no staffing agencies, no day labor, no part-time, I call it the grunt work. We really want to connect them to opportunities that will allow them to continue to grow and be self-sufficient.
Not that there's anything wrong with a starter job, but it is time. There comes
Getting them the support they need during that time. So success is getting them the support they need during that time. So success is them graduating the program with a lease in their own name, staying housed for a year to 2 years later. So super proud of that, but yes, it's employment and workforce housing.
Wow, that's amazing. Putting those two together, I think a lot of people wouldn't have thought of that, or thought yeah, that's okay, but the whole point of a job is so that you can afford a place to live, right? But I totally get this, because when I was fairly young, I was actually working on the radio, but they were only paying me for the hours I was actually on air, so it wasn't like full-time pay. And I was living, summer came around, this is in Flagstaff, the summer came around, and they're like, the parents are like, we're getting ready to move in. And I was like, I didn't have enough for a down payment. Like a first and last month's rent, not a down payment, first and last month's rent even. And I ended up sleeping in my car for several weeks while fully employed. So, and that's no way to get, to get on your feet again.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think kind of tying it back to my experience here last year, I had a full work day the next day, and my first meeting happened, and I'm not an overly emotional person.
You're talking the day after the Sleepout. Okay, got it. Sorry.
And I was absolutely emotional. I was delirious. I was losing my train of thought in meetings. I was so dehydrated, and let me tell you, I was drinking water all night for a job like that. Having to show up to job interviews and be sharp and all that, or putting together a resume, or even what we think is simple, and barely can do that. And I have to tell you, this is nothing compared to the reality of it. And so that was really eye-opening for me. It was something I still carry with me a year later, and why I'm back here today. And then also just having grown up homeless and having parents that still to this day struggle with addiction to drugs and just a lot of other, family, traumas and stuff like that, gave me a really deep empathy for the community neighbors that we have that struggle with those same barriers.
Yeah.
And so I really took that into consideration when refining the programs that we have to make sure that every human was seen as a human and not a circumstance. And the environments that we put them in, both from employment and housing, are something that they would be proud of and strive for, and not something that they felt was being handed to them.
Right.
Because I know growing up, you only know what you know, so all you see is poverty and, roach-infested motels and things like that. That's kind of what you believe is just out there, or what you deserve. But the moment I stepped into a really nice restaurant, I was in my 20s, I felt like I was in a whole new world, and I felt like, this is really nice. I kind of want to do this again. And so I started to work towards the life that I didn't know existed. And what I've seen is once we made that transition with our program, our success rate started to spike. And so that's been really neat for me as a human being, just to watch. And then, of course, there's a personal passion associated with it, right? I feel like I'm helping my family every day, all day. So it's been really rewarding, and I feel very honored to be able to do it.
I'm going to ask you where people can find out more about the Worker, and also where they can donate. And what I'm going to do before you mention that is think, maybe about your own situation. And I happen to have a mentally ill mother who was my alcoholic lineage. I'm sober a number of years. And we were only able to stay out of poverty because of my grandparents and the support that they gave us. But if they weren't around, my journey might have been much more similar to yours. And I'm just saying, you never know what keeps you from having to live that kind of life, and so it makes it a lot easier than to imagine. There are people out there that need that little hand there for a moment, so that they can have a lifetime of work and a lifetime of employment and a place to live, to raise their family in safety.
Sure.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I think the biggest piece of all that was it's lonely. It's lonely to be out there, right? Imagine, you don't have anybody to talk to, and so sometimes people just want to be seen and heard. That's it, just seen and heard. And so, a lot of times with our staff, that's really where it starts. We're just looking at them as the human. Now all of a sudden they feel seen. They get to tell us the authentic version version of their story,
Yeah.
and we don't care what it is. We
Right.
just care about getting them where they need to be and where they want to be.
Right.
And so that's a big piece of it, and it's something that while homelessness wasn't due to anything I did, it was a result of what my parents' decisions were.
Right.
You know, I was not seen, and I was not heard, and I wasn't allowed to play with certain kids because, you know, we were homeless, or I was the kid, you know, that had, you know, meth addicted parents. And so I was treated drastically different growing up because of that circumstance, and I yearned for attention, and like I wanted to be seen and I wanted to be heard. So parts of me always, I was like, I tried really hard in school. I was really good in school, and it was kind of my escape from the reality of my life. And that's kind of why I am where I am in my journey, is because I just worked really, really, really hard. Number one, to be seen, but number two, I did not want to live the life that my parents did. And so mental illness is very prevalent in my family. My mom is, she's schizophrenic and bipolar with many other things along with her addiction. And so addiction's been, and mental illness have been prevalent in my family. And I'm thankful that I didn't inherit either of those things.
I did.
But I've tried really,
not
really
fair.
hard to avoid it, okay? Really, really hard. But here's the thing, sometimes you can't avoid it.
Yeah.
And so you need to have support systems out there that aren't family members that may have sort of played a role in getting you into those situations.
Right.
The shelter that we stayed in, so I have a near and dear place to you, Mom, and a bunch of other nonprofits that are actually out here today help my family. So
That's amazing. So, where do people find out more about the
okay,
worker?
so here's the most important piece, you guys. We have a $25,000 goal because we have a $25,000 match. We are at about $18,000. How can you help? Help us get to that $25,000 mark. So that $25,000 turns into $50. Go to theworkeraz.org. Donate. You can go to any of our social media pages to learn more, but I'm telling you, theworkeraz.org. Please help us get to that goal. That 50,000 will change hundreds of lives and getting them on their path to self-sufficiency. And so,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Once again, that's theworkeraz.org.
I loved it.
You know, what are you gonna do? So let's bring in Susan. Come on in.
So here's the crazy thing. I actually get to be the interviewer, which I never get to be. But this one is really exciting for me. So I get to introduce one of my favorite people on this planet, Susan Connolly, who is the CEO of Chrysalis and sat on the Workers Board of Directors for many of the years that I have been here. So I'm a huge fan, and I am excited to have you please share with us.
Thank you,
Who
Carrie.
is Chrysalis and what do you do?
Well, first and foremost, thank you for the introduction. And sitting on the board, watching you lead, and how you have transformed the worker has just been so inspiring and not worth skipping over. Like the impact that you guys have in the community, and how you've helped people that I know personally, and just the impact. I don't know what Phoenix would be without the worker. And so thank you for all that you guys do. And it's been an honor to serve on the board with you. So, but yeah, a little bit about Chrysalis. Chrysalis, we're a domestic violence organization. Been in the Valley since 1981. I just came on recently as the CEO in December, as you know. Very excited. It's a full circle situation for me because, as you know, I had to take my kids to a shelter when I was 20 years old to get away from an abuser, and to then 25 years later to be in a position to come back and lead such an organization is such a precious opportunity.
I feel like you like there's nobody better than you for that role. Like I just hearing your story prior to you joining their team and realizing that like you bring so many key elements, and I cannot wait to see the impact that you and Chrysalis make and continue to make in the community. One of the things that you and I've talked about is like I myself, and I don't talk about it often, oddly enough, have endured domestic violence. The father of my daughter that was a hard relationship for me, and it was a hard one for me to escape. It took me 2 years to escape that relationship, and so just to know that there's like organizations out there that support individuals that are in those really, really difficult moments is like so important. And truthfully, I didn't know something like that existed when I was going through it. And I wish I did, but in that same breath, there was some angels on earth,
I remember you telling me.
right, that sort of pushed me through that situation in a way that I needed. So I love what you guys do, and I'm like so grateful for the work that you're doing. Tell people where can they go to donate or learn more about Chrysalis.
Please go to chrysalisaz.org. That way you can learn all about the various programs that we offer. We don't offer just shelter. We have transitional housing. We have a lay legal team. Because the hardest thing is when you do finally get the courage to leave, then you have to protect yourself legally. And there is a whole process, and that can be overwhelming, especially when you're in crisis and you're not sure what to do, and just all of the emotions that come with those kind of decisions. We have an amazing lay legal team. If you guys are listening, you guys are the very best. They're out there just doing amazing work. And then we have a clinical team, so we actually are able to offer counseling so that when somebody is wanting to leave, has left, or at any part in their healing journey, we're able to offer counseling, which is remarkable. And then something that we do differently at Chrysalis than other domestic violence organizations in the Valley is we actually have an offender treatment program. So we partner with the probation department. Clients come out, they're on probation, they're referred to us, they go through that training for up to a year. And I've sat in those classes trying to understand from a different point of view, and it's been mind-blowing. So I'm really proud of the work that we're doing and engaging in those areas. It's just a wonderful organization.
Oh my gosh, like that is really unique, and I think it's special. There's something kind of special about that. Where can people go to find out more information, get help, or donate?
Yeah, if you're wanting to get help or donate any information about Chrysalis, chrysalisaz.org. Honestly, we're also having a $15,000 ask that we're trying to raise. We're about $6,000 as of right now. Help us help the community and the families that are reaching out to us and all of the different programs that we offer. Tonight's really important to be able to sleep out. It's not that we're trying to replicate the homeless experience, but really understanding that when clients don't have a resource or a place to go, they're left with very little choices. And so we need the community support. So chrysalisaz.org, you'll see the donate button up at the top. Every bit helps. Nothing is too small, nothing is too big. We really do count on our community, so any support would be great.
I love it, and I really do hope that you guys check out, their website. But I also would invite anybody that is curious to reach out to Susan.
Yeah.
She is a fantastic human being. There's so much more to her story that she didn't share, and both just a personal story, but also a fantastic professional journey that led her where she is. And so I encourage people to reach out and just get to know Susan, and I promise you your heart will be touched. So
Thank you very much,
Susan,
Carrie.
thank you for
You also
coming.
have a phenomenal story, so you should get to know Carrie as well.
We're in each other's fan club. I might be the president
very much.
of hers.
I'm
and
her
she might-
president
There
too,
you go.
so yes.
And very grateful to be here. Are we
Yes.
handing this back off to you, sir?
All right. Well, thank you all.
Thank you. All right.
Do I get to go take one?
Is it just streaming? Okay, I'll have it.
So this is in case you're just tuning in, we're doing our live stream here. It's Sleepout 2026, and I've got Hunter Scott, Director of Marketing and Communications at Circle the City, and I found out on the ride over here, on the light rail ride over here to our Sleepout, that you should be a Director of Communications for Circle the City, because you used to be in the media.
I
Like
did.
me.
We both have a similar background. So was in news for several years. Decided to try something different, try something new. So joined this, and I thought be a great avenue to pursue. So
You get sick of working with, as we call it in the business, talent.
yes,
And you're like, oh,
they're so demanding. They always want more.
Oh my gosh, it's all
So
about
many
them and their
egos.
egos.
I know.
Oh my
I
gosh. But even though it's not about me, tell me about Circle the City.
Yeah, so Sleepout City is a great nonprofit. It provides medical treatment and services to people facing homelessness all across Maricopa County. We serve about 9,000 unique individual patients each year, and we do it through several services. So we have what are called 2 medical respite centers. They're both in Phoenix. We have a third one opening up in Mesa later this fall. So the way we describe these are kind of mini hospitals, so to speak. So prior to medical respite, if somebody went to the hospital, had to have a major surgery, they had a wound, they were going through chemo, typically they would be discharged back to the street or the shelter, and then they would have reinfections on the wounds, they would still be sick, they would have to go back to the hospital, so it was this continuous cycle. So our amazing founder, Sister Adele O'Sullivan, who's still very active in the organization, said, okay, we've got to do something different.
By the way, is she going to be saint?
Pretty much, she might as well.
Okay,
She's like
all
the
right.
closest thing to an angel
kinda
on
what I
earth
keep
that you can
hearing.
get to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so she really pushed for these medical respite centers. So instead of going back to the streets, they come to us. They stay with us 24/7. They see our doctors and our nurses until they are back to health, and then we help facilitate their transition after that to either housing or shelter or wherever they need to go. Then we also have 2 outpatient clinics. So anybody who's facing homelessness can be scheduled to see a doctor appointment, whether that's medical or behavioral health. They just do an appointment just like anybody else would. And then we have 5 mobile medical units, and we describe these as kind of like RVs, like medical doctor's offices on wheels, basically. So they go around the valley to fixed site locations, so shelters, different areas, and they just basically park up outside. It's kind of backpack medicine. So they literally load up every single day. They load up their backpacks, and they are walking through canals, encampments, railroad tracks, and meeting people where they are. And so they're bringing everything from IV hydration to wound care to prescriptions and things like that. So overall, we provide a lot of this medical care through just a variety of ways.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot, but it's a
trying to
good lot.
absorb it all, man. That was like a fire hose.
It's a lot.
Of
You can't
info.
really do an elevator pitch with that because anytime
No.
anybody asks for it, I'm like, well, it's a little bit more than that because I have to like really explain like
Yeah.
what we do per se. So
Well, and the thing that I've been covering Arizona for a long time. I thought at times I've thought of everything.
yes, yeah,
I never even thought about the respite.
yeah,
care.
yeah, absolutely.
Like, you have a procedure done, you're discharged. Of course, things aren't going to go well for you if you're living on the street.
Yeah, and that's the thing that Sister Adele really noticed because, for context, Sister went to medical school at the University of Arizona for the sole purpose to help people facing homelessness. And so when she came back to Phoenix, she was on the streets and she was seeing it firsthand of what was happening. And so, she always says one of her favorite things to ask people is, what do you think happens to people who are facing homelessness or who are homeless after they're discharged from the hospital? They're like, oh, they just go to the shelter, they go, and it's like, no, they go back to the streets. And so there's that gap that she really recognized and saying like, hey, we've got to do something to change this. And she did it. And so Phoenix, thankfully we have our 2 respite centers, a third on the way, and so she really spearheaded this movement here locally.
And the teams with the backpacks. It reminds me of like a Army medic or a Navy corpsman or something.
It's hard because one of the barriers that our patients face, and that's kind of one of the things that we always look at is what are the barriers that they're facing and how can we break those down. One of the barriers that people face who are actively unsheltered, they have their possessions, they may have their pets, they may have other items that they don't want to leave behind to go seek treatment at another facility, and they may say, well, this is my stuff, and you got to think like this is all they have in their life. These are their belongings, these are their cherished items, this is their home right here. And so our mantra and something that Sister Adele really instilled was our whole goal is to meet people where they are, wherever that's at, whether that's holistically or whether that's physically. Right? If that's in a canal or a train track, we're going to meet them where they're at. And so for the patients who can't come to us, we're going to go find them.
Wow. All right, so we got the respite centers, you've got the doctor's offices on wheels, you've got the teams carrying backpacks. You guys gonna add a chopper to your
we might as well.
repertoire?
Yeah, we could.
That's amazing.
Yeah, we're adding just a lot of different services within those. That's kind of the umbrella of what we have. But our providers are always thinking outside of the box. So right now we're exploring something with a memory clinic. So with our partners at CAS and ASU, they did a big study, and I've seen an increase in people facing homelessness and cognitive issues, and they just face a completely different reality than people who are housed. And we're seeing a lot of people who are a lot younger with cognitive issues because of whether it's their experience on the streets or where that may be. So, just little programs like that. Memory clinic, we have a foot clinic every once in a while, and so people don't think, a lot of our patients wear shoes that are barely holding on. They may not be the right size, they could be 3 sizes too small, but that's what's their protection, and so obviously it hurts their feet. And then we've also really dug into recently addiction medicine and behavioral health, because we're seeing behavioral health. I think that's a common theme with just homelessness in general with all of our partners in our organizations, is how can we better help with the behavioral health aspect as well.
Yeah, that's so important, and especially, if struggling to find your meds when you're off your meds is almost a mountain that is too high to climb.
And there's just so many things like that, and it's unfortunately, they either lose them, possessions get stolen, and then just in general, there are a lot of medications that our providers can't prescribe that are needed because of the interaction with the heat. So during the summer, depending on their ailments, the medicine can actually make things worse because of the interaction with the heat. So they say, this is what you need, but we can't prescribe it to you because of how hot it is, and it's going to have an adverse reaction. So you would need to be sheltered for that. So that's just another barrier that they face of not being able to provide certain medications for certain ailments.
Wow. So if there's something that you don't know about Circle the City after this, and you want to learn more, where do they go, and then how do they donate to Circle the City?
So any of our social media pages are pretty searchable, but obviously the easiest way is to go to our website, circlethecity.org. There's a big donate button right on the top, but even if people aren't in the capacity to give, we love people who can volunteer with our patients. That's just such a big thing for our patients. In our respite centers especially, bingo is really popular, karaoke is really popular, arts and crafts, things like that. And volunteering is very important because it really makes our patients feel seen. And so if people can't give monetarily, we love when they give their time. We're also looking always for what we call kindness kits that we give to all of our patients. And they are basically, you'll find all the information on our website, but they're Ziploc baggies full of essentials. So travel size, chapstick and sunscreen and body washes and all that stuff. And so we always give those out to our patients. Those are great activities for school organizations, churches, groups who can really get together, donate those items, put them together, because we go through thousands and thousands and thousands of those.
Wow, that's amazing. So I'm getting the sense that Rick Mitchell with the Homeless I.D. project is trying to do a little I don't know if you will, speed dating between some of the amazing organizations out here. So he wants you to sit down with Mike Renaud from Valle del Sol.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that okay? Michael, can we get you over here? And so you guys can sit down and chat about where you guys intersect with your with what you do.
You can learn a little bit about Valle del Sol first, then go.
So you get to be the interviewer.
Oh, okay. Going back to my old ways. How's it going?
It's hot.
Yeah, it is.
It's hot.
It is warm. Are you
Late.
surviving?
My normal bedtime's 8:30. Just hold it.
Yeah.
My normal bedtime's 8:30. So
Yes.
This is late for me.
Yes.
So we usually got the AC cranked at about 68.
Really nice at this time.
Yeah. So it's hot.
It is very, very warm. So for people who are watching, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Mike Reno. I'm the president and CEO of Valle del Sol, which is a not-for-profit community health center here in Phoenix, and we've been around 53 years. We are rooted in the civil rights movement, founded in the late 60s by young Chicano activists in Phoenix to form an organization that would fight for equality. But pretty quickly, early on in their history, they also realized that so many people that they were working to fight for equality for didn't have access to healthcare, certainly not healthcare that represented who they were in their community, right? Very hard to enter the mainstream healthcare system for anyone, but if you don't speak English, or more importantly, the health provider doesn't speak Spanish, there's no other cultural alignment, and so we pretty quickly shifted to having a dual purpose: fight for civil rights, policy work, advocacy work, leadership work, and then also delivering healthcare. So now we're one of the largest community health centers in Arizona, like yourselves. And we treat thousands of people every day in primary care and psychiatry and mental health and addictions and school-based programs and WIC, and we still turn out a whole bunch of new leaders for our community through our Hispanic Leadership Institute program, and then do a ton of policy and advocacy work on a state and federal level.
That's awesome. So what are some of the maybe the barriers that the people you serve face that maybe people don't really recognize right off the bat, or some of those that people would help them know?
Yeah, I get asked this question, believe it or not, a lot. It's an excellent question. And to me, it's a really simple answer that I don't think people that haven't experienced it think about. And it's one word. It's time, right? It is all-consuming to be just trying to live. Just trying to find where you're going to eat next, just trying to find how to feed your kid, where you're going to get a backpack for them for school, what happens if something goes wrong and now the car doesn't work, or maybe the kid gets in trouble for school for something and they're in detention, but you have to go to your shift. I mean, figuring out life is hard. And then when you're combining that with being under-resourced, it is impossible, in my opinion, for a lot of people to be able to say, well, I'm going to go wait in a doctor's office for 3 hours because they're never on time, and I'm going to give them my whole afternoon, especially if that time equates to your job, and your job is maybe, a server somewhere. Taking 3 hours off in the middle of the day doesn't look good. So time, to me, is one of the biggest factors of privilege. When you have privilege, you have the privilege of time, and a lot of the people that we serve are just really working every day to survive, and to make the life that they have a little bit better, and to make the lives of their kids better. And we have to honor those kinds of things, right? And systems do a terrible job at doing that for the most part, right? I mean, think about the last time you tried to go to a doctor's office and that whole process, sitting in a lobby, then getting called back, and waiting for 20 minutes before the doctor comes in the room. We try to eliminate all that stuff.
That's amazing. I think that speaks a lot of volumes, because I think a lot of us take our mundane, regimented days for granted, just because of how scheduled it is, robotic. It's just second nature for us. We're very on much autopilot. But to your point, it's a very different reality for the people that we serve. And just like you said, they're fighting to survive every single day, and it's very strategic. It's very thoughtful, just because if something goes wrong, it can be a devastating part of their lives. And I think that's something that people.
That's right. Yeah, that privilege part. Think about people's days changing, right? Changing. The doctor's office calls and says, "Oh, we have to cancel today." And in some people's lives, okay, no problem. I'll reschedule my day and go tomorrow. In other people's lives, maybe they spent 2 weeks just trying to get this time off, trying to arrange for someone to watch their kiddos, trying to make sure grandma's okay, etc. And now their whole entire schedule's screwed up, and it's just hard to overcome that constantly when systems do that to them.
What do you find most gratifying in your job and what you do? I guess what kind of, when you go to bed at night, or when you look back on things, are there any specific things that stand out, or is there just a general
doing this kind of work, if anybody's ever been in not-for-profit work, it's extremely hard. You're doing an enormous amount of work with very little resources, certainly not as much financial resources as a private equity-backed organization or a Fortune 500 company, so it's hard. And for me, just personally, as a CEO, I don't get to do direct care stuff every day. And so those days that I get to go into a clinic, that I get to go out on our street outreach team, that I get to go do things like this, those are incredibly rewarding. Literally just last week, a patient stopped me in one of our clinics, and he was a patient that I met on street outreach 7 months ago. And he stopped me. He looked familiar to me, but I wasn't quite sure. But he knew me right away. And he came up to me and he shook my hand and he looked me in the eye and he said, "I want to thank you. You saw me in a city park about 7 months ago, and you came up and talked to me and shook my hand and treated me like a human being. And it's the first time I've been treated like a human being in a decade on the streets." and that is worth everything. Right? So those to me are the moments that are the most important moments.
So I think that could be a lesson for just society in general. We were just talking about, and it was like, how can you get back to serve the city and also like obviously monetarily and volunteering and things like that. But it's like the little things that you can do in your personal lives, just walking down the street and making an acknowledgement to whoever it might be, and just making that eye contact. So I remember some of our providers said too, like something as small as an eye contact was just such a big thing because so many people turn their head, they choose to ignore it and things like that. So I think just these little acts of kindness and humanity can go a long way for them.
Yeah, absolutely, right? I mean, it's to me, it's a privilege to be able to do what we do. It's a privilege to have people trust you with their health, with their life, with the health of their family. But that privilege also carries carries responsibilities. We have a responsibility. The Circle does incredibly well of treating people as humans first. And not worrying about treating them as a customer or a patient. Let's just treat people as a human first. Not to get too preachy here, but our society has a hard time with othering and dehumanizing people. To your point, just acknowledging someone, just looking him in the eye, and waving and smiling, and treating someone like a human on the worst day of their life, on the worst decade of their life, is so impactful to that person.
So it's kind of one of those things like you have no idea what somebody's going through, and it can be a terrible thing. What are kind of, I guess, the next, challenges or goals that you would like to accomplish? I guess what's on the horizon for By the Soul?
Yeah, excellent question. There's a lot of those things. As you know, the work that you all do is really, Circle the City is the preeminent organization in the state, in my opinion. For what you guys are. I mean, not even close, right? The human work that you do on a level that the healthcare system doesn't want to have anything to do with any of those patients, right? And you embrace that, and it comes from your staff, and it comes from the top up and bottom up, right? I mean, it's like this perfect mesh of your senior leadership and then staff, and everybody cares. And we have that same thing. We don't do nearly the amount of work with people who are unhoused that you all do. It's for us, it's a fraction of what we do. We are more typical primary care, families and kids, and people who are on Medicaid, Medicare, but it's a really impactful part of what we do. So right now we got two huge fights happening, right? The Trump administration's HR 1 bill here in a few months will make it extremely difficult for people to stay on Medicaid. It includes provisions that make people have to prove that they're working or volunteering, and make it prove that they have a health condition that might impact that. They have to engage in additional eligibility checks. And that in and of itself is probably, it's not helpful. It's a barrier. But at the same time, the state of Arizona, so far, hasn't made it easy to do those things. They're adding to the problem, in my humble opinion, by the systems that the state has and the way they're choosing to approach this upcoming cliff. So we're doing a lot of work on that. The governor and the people at Access have been very open to figuring out how to do that. But we got to get that done by December at the latest. So we're under a time crunch here. We got to get the word out to people. We have to have people understand how to keep their Medicaid, whether they're impacted or not. So that's a major fight that could impact 400,000 people in Arizona. A lot of those people are mutual patients. And then just the larger fight that I probably can't say too much about, but the larger fight about how we think about people who are unhoused and how we think about the problems our city has. I'm lucky. I'm another one of those transplants here. I've only lived here 3 years. I feel like there's a level of, I don't have a lot of leg to stand on here. I'm not a native Arizonan, and I have great respect for them. But I think sometimes, at least from an outsider's perspective, we're not acting like a big city. We're a big city now. We're the 5th largest city in the country, and that's great. I mean, there's a lot of progress that's been made. But with that, we become a big city with big city problems. And we have, roughly 5,000 people that are living unhoused every single day. and then another 5,000 or 6,000 that are unhoused but are in a shelter of some form, and that's just unacceptable. And so, that fight about how we figure out what to do, what's the right thing, how do we overcome this in a way that still treats people as human and gives them dignity at the same time. And we know what the answers are, right? But it's getting the other people around to get to the same answer. We know that we can solve this problem. Not you and I.
Yes, right.
I mean, maybe you.
We can, maybe.
But we get some really smart people because the problem's solvable, right? We know how to solve this. It's just will the city, will the state, will other stakeholders come to the table with resources to help us actually solve the problem that we have.
So I think this is just like a perfect example of like what we're doing right now. We're all in the same space. We all do our own unique individual things, but it all comes down to, as Rick says, partnership, collaboration. That's what's important. All of us individually, all of us individual organizations can't do it alone. But I think that's a good example for our city leaders, for our state leaders to collaborate, to listen, to have an open mind, really just work together because it's
corporations. But it's solvable, and if we just all work together, we can solve it and make us the Phoenix that we're all brought to be in. Absolutely, because we all want that.
We appreciate it. And you'll send that to me.
Oh, first of all, last question. If people want to learn more about Vita Soul, support you, get involved, how else do they find you?
Yeah, ValleDelSol.com, ValleDelSol.com.
Perfect. Awesome. Mike, thank
Thanks,
you.
man.
I've heard a lot about Mike from Sister and Kim, so I finally got to meet him tonight in person. The man, the myth, legend. So it's been good. So yeah, thanks for chatting.
Thank you for what you guys do.
Course,
you guys
likewise.
are amazing. You know that.
Likewise, you too.
We're big fans of yours.
Same. Right here.
All right. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Actually, you know how to do it.
Sorry. You know how to do an interview.
I have a little bit of experience.
No, I love that.
Jim accused me of setting up a speed date. That was a speed date, man. That was fantastic.
It turned into something a little more than just a speed date.
It really did.
Yeah.
And with Hunter's media background, I think I heard you say he had a leg up.
Yeah, that's great.
That was
great.
fantastic. We want to hear next from
Well,
Tempe
real quickly,
Community.
let's just
Okay.
this is what we call in the business. This is a reset.
Oh, okay.
In case you're just joining us now, Sleepout 2026,
Yes.
and of course, there's ways you can donate and help. And we're going to ask. We're asking each one of those individual organizations how you can do that. But I also wanted to make sure I am on the advisory board of the Homeless I.D. project. I want to make sure that you guys get a mention again too, or we.
We, us guys.
Thank you. Yeah. So
Us guys is the right.
it's homelessidproject.org or HIDP.org, and there's a big donation button there. So, okay, that's all. I just wanted to.
And we had a $25,000 match. We now have a $30,000 match.
Ooh.
So don't worry about if just go ahead because we got a $30,000 match. We would love to close in on that. And by the way, that's we talk about documents.
Yeah.
And 25 or 30 or 50 or $60,000 is a lot of documents. It's $12 for an ID. It's anywhere from 20 to 100 for a birth certificate, and we have labor that it takes a lot to labor to get some of these documents and lights and all that kind of thing. But with all that said, by the time we get done paying for everything, we're somewhere around $40 per document.
Okay.
And so why do we need $50,000 or $60,000? Last year, we provided a total of 15,000 documents, and that's for about the third year in a row we've done that. And the only reason we provided 15,000 documents is because we only had enough funding to do 15,000 documents. If we had more funding, we know there's more need. And again, we know that the ID is not the end of it, it's the beginning of it.
Yeah.
The tagline on our logo says "Help starts here" for a reason, because that's where it starts. So, enough of that.
No, I think it's just as important as any other organization out there. So,
Yeah, well, we're in this together. So.
yeah, absolutely.
Good.
All right, you want to go,
Mr.
grab-
Sharf. Philip.
Yes.
Mr. Sharf.
Come join us.
I'm going to vacate this chair.
Okay.
And Jim is going to introduce and interview Mr. Philip Sharf from Tempe Community Action Agency.
Thank you, Rick.
You bet.
Appreciate that. Handshake and a formal handoff. And a handshake and a formal tap in.
Yes, there you go. Absolutely. So, Philip tell us what Tempe Community Action Agency does.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the question.
Yeah.
This is softball, and I appreciate it. Started off easy.
I'm famous for softball questions.
So I really think about, and we'll say TCAA from here on out, because it's going to be way easier for everybody involved. So I'd like to think about us in basically three big pillars.
Okay.
Health, housing, and upward mobility. Health is really basically all things food related. And so we run a fairly large Meals on Wheels program. We also run a congregate meal program bringing not homebound, but locationally restricted seniors together at 3 different locations, one in South Scottsdale, 2 in Tempe, for lunch every day.
Okay.
And we do a lot of educational programming around that. We do some exercising, that kind of stuff. But it's really just community, getting seniors out of the house. It's a subsidized meal, so they're also getting a highly nutritious meal for about $2, which obviously allows them to continue to have access. And then we run the largest food pantry in Tempe. And so right now we're seeing anywhere from 90 to 150 heads of households every day. And we're at about a 40% increase in my last fiscal year over the year before. So we're just starting our new fiscal year in July. So if I look at July to June of 24 to 25, in comparison to 25 to 26, 25 to 26 was a 40% increase. Wow. So that's huge. And so we think about food being health. We do run an actual health program, though, called Health Start, which is working with families from womb to 2. And really we focus on neonatal education, making sure families have access to the appropriate education, but also any sort of vitamins, or if there's any issues with the pregnancy, making sure they have the access to the needs they have. And really we're focused on healthy birth weight, which is defined as 5 pounds or above.
Right.
Last year we had all but one family make it. And not of their own fault. There's a lot of reasons why they don't make it to that 5 pounds. And then immediately upon birth, we transitioned to getting immunization access. And we have 100% immunization access. So that's truly health. But everything else is really food. The housing space, we run an emergency shelter. We run it in a model right now that's called iHelp, which is actually a national model, which is an interfaith housing, an emergency lodging program. That's what it stands for.
Okay.
And so every single night of the week, we partner with a different faith-based organization, and they technically house our shelter in their facility. It is an incredible partnership, and it's a great way to combine our faith individuals with the work that we do. But it does have some restrictions to it. The largest one being we can only really shelter overnight, because during the day we take that shelter and we relocate it to another location.
Yeah.
And so individuals that have a second or a third shift job, we can't actually shelter them. So we have people that come into our shelter, then they gain employment, and then we actually have to kick them out of our shelter because they got a job overnight, right? And so it's great, but it's not what we really think is the best way to serve. And so we're actually in the process of building a brand new facility in Tempe, which will take our numbers from 40 in the emergency shelter space to 68, but in a 24/7 model. So now, if you have that overnight job, you come in at 4 o'clock in the morning and you come in and you stay with us during the day. And then we have 12 transitional housing units in that space as well. Wow. And then we also work on a program called Rapid Rehousing, which many agencies do, which is really a process of giving people a sum of money that dissipates over time as they increase their own income. And so it kind of becomes an inverse proportioned relationship. So month 1, I might give you $1,000, but by month 9, I'm only giving you $100. Right? And then month 1 you might only earn $200, and by month 9 we're working with you, you're earning $1,000.
Yeah.
And so that we can kind of wean you off of the support systems, but you need that bigger chunk right away.
Yeah.
How do you get moved in? How do you establish that residency, right? So it's kind of a cool program. Again, it's a national program. And then upward mobility, a couple of things. The biggest one is financial empowerment. So what we're working on right now is how do you take people beyond financial literacy? And there's a difference between being literate and being empowered.
Yeah.
Literacy is understanding how to establish a checking account. Empowerment is understanding compound interest.
Right.
And when we think about how do we take somebody from that first step to home ownership, it's all of those pieces past that first step of literacy. So we're really looking on how do you take somebody past that literacy to really be empowered. And then we also run a very large rent and utility assistance program, which we think about as upward mobility, because again, it's keeping people in their house. We also think about that as homeless prevention. And we're going to spend about $2.5 million this year on rent and utility assistance.
Wow.
Now, partially, that's because of the huge microburst that hit Tempe last fall. And so when that happened, we obviously then became the response partner with the Red Cross and the city of Tempe to manage all those people in need. And so we had about a $2 million gift come in, actually through a state senator, Lauren Kuby, managed to get us $2 million that we could use for direct assistance to really support during that time. So our numbers this year are going to look amazing, but it's not great, right? Because we don't want the need to be there, and we don't want anybody to be affected by that storm. But it was a unique time because, in Arizona we don't have a lot of natural disasters, and especially not a lot of natural disasters that, requires rehousing.
Yeah.
A haboob is.
Right.
It's an inconvenience.
Right.
Don't open your mouth, close your eyes, right? This was one of the first times in our history that we had an actual natural issue that caused people to lose their homes.
Yeah.
And it's also one of the few times where you actually have a lot of people that are normally housed and affluent, understanding what it's like to need to seek shelter. My love of my life is from Florida. She understands hurricanes and shelters, and it's a normative thing to kind of be a part of shelter. Whereas out here, unless you're experiencing homelessness, you're rarely, if ever, a part of shelter. And so that was a really interesting thing for us in Tempe, to have people kind of need shelter because their roof got blown off and all those kind of things. So that was kind of a cool experience. So that's kind of in that upper mobility space also. And then we work with a project called the Puente Project. Puente just meaning corner, so we're trying to turn the corner. And it's a basic universal income project. So we started last year with 68 families that were in a Title I school, all third graders. This foundation is wanting to see if by giving a basic $200 a month to all those families, will we have a higher percentage of persistence through elementary school and into the next level of education. So every month they have a credit card that we load $200 on. There's no restrictions on how they use the money, but we meet with them on a regular, making sure that they are using things appropriately. There are some restrictions. They can't cash it out for check, for cash. They have to use it. But we don't say it has to be used on rent. It can be on anything. And what we have found is 2 of the families have left the school. Both had immigration issues, so that made sense that they left. But the other 66 are still enrolled. We actually had a family move away and then move back because they didn't realize that they would lose that assistance. So they moved and they moved right back and got re-enrolled. And most of the families are actually letting the kids be part of the decision-making process. So they're learning, even as now this third grader, this 8-year-old, meeting with their parents and having actual conversations about money, which doesn't happen in a lot of households, but it certainly doesn't happen in low-income households.
Right.
Where you never have any money to discuss how are we going to spend this $200, right? So I think it's been really cool to also see some families have some dialogue about what does it mean to have this money?
Yeah.
And that's what I do in a nutshell. But,
That's
every
a
day.
rather large shell on a large nut there. But I'm still back on trying to figure out compound interest, and if you could also explain escrow to me at the same time.
Yeah,
that'd
right.
be
Well,
really great.
and if you can circle around on depreciation for me, we'd be all set. Then we'd be perfect.
We're going to
with
be
each other.
sitting here with blank looks.
No
on
doubt.
Our faces.
No
But,
doubt.
You guys really do so much, and one of the things I wanted to point out is, being in Tempe, do you sometimes get a little, I don't know, Phoenix envy? Is it, it's like, everything's so focused on Phoenix, and everybody talks about, the zone, or Central Arizona Shelter Services is there, and then there's the Keys to Change Campus, and all that.
Yeah.
Does it feel a little bit like that?
So I came from CAS, and I worked at CAS as their COO and then interim CEO. So I have a good perspective of what happens in those spaces. And I think, there is some interesting envy that happens from time to time, and how likely you're going to get notarized and looked at for the work you do. But I would say the one thing that's really wonderful about the area we're in is we have a really huge commitment from our city council and from our community to actively work on the problem. And that's, I'm not saying that does not take place in Phoenix, it certainly does. But being in the size town of 250 people and not in the size town of a couple of million people allows me to call the mayor at any time I want or need and have the opportunity to have
You call him Corey, by
informed
the way?
dialogue.
I got it.
So before I got into this space, I was at ASU for almost 20 years.
Oh.
So I worked with Corey before he had ever run for office.
Oh, okay. So you do call him
in that
Corey.
regard, I call him Corey. So,
Okay.
so I'll tell you the
All
story.
right.
So it was last spring, and we're at our big fundraising event, and I had yet to be announced as CEO. But I knew, of course. And so in walks Corey, and I say, Mayor Woods, it's so good to see you. Would like you to meet Amanda. And he's looking at me like I've got 7 heads. And he walks up to Amanda and he goes, I'm Corey, like looking at me like, why is this guy going? And I was like, so I just pulled him aside and said, well, you know, I'm just getting used to having to call you mayor. And he was like, this is going to be bad for both of us. So I call him Corey, but with a lot of respect.
Yeah.
And he's a great guy.
Where can people find out more about your organization and how to give?
Yeah.
Obviously, you guys do a lot.
I love that.
And that means you need a lot of money to do it.
No doubt. So, you know, the thing I always like to say is there's a lot of us doing a lot of great work. And what I want anybody listening to the live stream or seeing or listening to you in the morning on KTAR to think about is what is the thing that resonates the most with you and what is your internal community that you want to be able to help with. And so what I don't want is for people to look and give to Tempe if they're from Surprise without thinking about the needs in Surprise, because there's an agency like myself in Surprise and Homeless I.D. Project is working with all of us. I mean, so first and foremost, that's important for me to just recognize is that there's a lot of us doing great work. Now, if you want to give to me,
sure.
So TempeAction.org is our website. We're on basically every social media platform. We are going to be having our grand opening in the fall of our new building. So that'll be something to look for. So if you're curious about the work we do, certainly go to the website. But we're going to have a lot of events where people can come and really walk through the space and get a sense. And we were actually just discussing how do we hold something similar to this actually in our shelter before it opens, and giving people that opportunity to come and spend a night in shelter. Because once shelter opens, you can't really do that.
You're right, you need it
and
for the
so,
people.
you know, thinking about the kind of the parlay from this to thinking about also what's that experience, because I think it's really important for people to see that as well. You know, our needs, as you can imagine, are ever present. And so I think what I want everybody to recognize is our ability to use our buying power in spaces like food is tremendous. So I can buy 5 pounds of food for less than $1 through my contracts with food banks. And so what I find a lot of times is that one can that we might get from an individual that might have cost them $1 is 5 times less the impact they could have if they just recognize that donation of that $1 allows us to take that buying power away further.
Okay.
And so when people are maybe concerned about donating money versus the food, that's the one thing I just want people to recognize is we'll take the food and we need the food, and I'm not saying no to that. But if you're going to spend $1 and you're going to go and buy the can and donate it versus donating the $1, that is a 5-to-1 ratio. So I also just point that out because of our contracts, we have those opportunities. So if you want to see that $1 go even further, that's more helpful.
Well, and they might spend it on that $1 on garbanzo beans. And let's just be honest, those things are way too mushy. I don't really
You
like
know,
them that much anyway.
you have no
They're good
idea
for you,
how much
but-
I appreciate you saying that. So that is garbanzo beans is my running joke, right?
Is it?
Is we give them out all the time because we get them in all the time
because
they're sitting in somebody's cabinet because at some point you bought it and then you realize you don't know what to do with it, right? And unless you know how to make hummus, you're probably out. And so we always joke about that because
love
I'm
hummus,
like, hey,
but
so
I
do
don't
I,
like
right?
garbanzo beans.
Right? So it's like I like guacamole but not avocado. So that's always my running joke because I'm like, what is that person going to do? And how are they going to create a meal for their family with an item they don't know how to use?
Yeah.
And so that also allows us to get the items that we really know can be utilized. The other thing I will say if you are going to donate the food, really be thoughtful about things like pop tops on the can versus something that needs to use a can opener. Some of our clientele may not have access to a can opener, but they can always use that pop top, especially when we talk about things like soups.
Yeah.
Soups are something you can eat on the go if you can get it open.
Right.
I can't if I can't, right? And so
Right.
those are also those little behavioral changes that we work with people on educating them that, yes, all donations are wonderful, but some donations are slightly better.
Yeah.
And that, that pouch of tuna is better than the can of tuna, but the can of tuna with the pop top is better than the one without. And so we have hierarchy of giving. But at the end of the day, we're just happy for anything that comes our way. And then additionally, we all have opportunities to volunteer. So if you want to come and serve a meal at the shelter, you want to come and work the pantry. We also have a community garden. We do a lot of different stuff. Love to have you out. Love to have you out.
I would love to come out.
We can host your talk show right from our garden.
Maybe I'm thinking I want to come check out the shelter before you open it up.
Come spend a night with us.
Yeah, no, and I love that faith community has bought in,
Yes.
but I also love that this is going to be something that really helps people 24 hours a day.
No doubt, no doubt.
Yeah.
And I just want to thank you for spending your time with us.
Oh, yeah.
It's really important for us, and certainly for Rick and the Homeless ID and Carrie at the Worker. This is a tremendous opportunity to raise awareness of all the need that's out there across the valley. So appreciate that.
And I wish there wasn't so much need, but
Amen.
There is, and let's.
And until there's
chip
not,
our
we'll
way
just
at
keep
it.
waking up and fighting the good fight.
Yeah, exactly.
So appreciate you so much.
Pleasure, Philip.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Back in, Rick.
All right. So
Thank you, Philip.
Thank you. Absolutely.
So Rick, you're not just the executive director of the Homeless ID project. You're kind of the director of this broadcast. So what are we doing next?
Well, I think we're pretty close to wrap.
Okay.
Yeah, we've been running for a few hours, and I don't know if people are still with us. I know my wife is.
Yeah. Is she?
Yeah, well, no.
Yeah, I
she
never
went
got a
to-
response.
I think she went to sleep.
I sent the link to my wife and I didn't get a response.
Oh,
She
that's
might
not a
be
good
asleep
sign.
as well.
Yeah, that's not a good sign.
Yeah.
But I do want to say this. When we sign off, we're still here.
Yeah.
And we'll be here all night. Jim's going to wake up early and get in his car and be on the air at 5.
Yeah.
At 5 o'clock. Are we gonna talk? We're gonna call in.
Oh
or
yeah.
something?
Yeah.
Okay,
No,
good.
we'll talk on the radio for sure. Yeah.
So seriously though, a point that I want to make, if we haven't made it already, and we probably have, none of this works without all of us.
Yeah.
And we are not going to end homelessness. We are actually currently ending homelessness in our community for many.
Yeah.
And when I say we, every partner here and every partner that's not here, working together, helping people to end homelessness. 75% of the people who are homeless today will not be homeless a year from now. And that's because of the work that these organizations are doing. And so support whatever makes sense to you, but please support some of us. On that note, virtually, I think everybody here, I think every organization here is eligible for donations through the Arizona State Tax Credit Program, which allows individuals to donate $506 this year and get it all back when you file your taxes. People filing jointly is $1,009, and you get it all back when you file your taxes. Now, sounds easy, and for some reason or other, it apparently is not, because only 5% of those eligible, and by the way, everybody's eligible, 100% of the, if you owe $1 in tax, you can get $1 tax credit. So 100% of taxpayers are eligible, 5% actually use the credit. So I would encourage you to use the tax credit, and by the way, if you use it tonight, there may be a match.
Oh yeah. So you're getting the money matched, and you're getting it back. It's basically like a short-term, no-interest loan that you're giving, essentially to the government, and then but it's not even to the government. You're giving it directly to the agencies that are working to end homelessness in our community, and that's so important.
Yeah, absolutely. Jim, as Philip said, I really appreciate you doing this. And,
Oh, yeah.
Jim would have been here last year, but it was his 20th anniversary.
Right.
He and his wife, not just his alone.
Yeah. Well, when the clock slips over to midnight, it's going to be my 21st anniversary. But the wife is a teacher, and she has to report back to work tomorrow.
So there would have been no fancy dinner out tonight anyway. Yeah, all right. And Jim hosts our breakfast every year, fundraising breakfast every year, which this year will be October 2nd at the Phoenix Country Club. More on that later for fellow Homeless I.D. project on our socials, but that'll all be on there. Those of you who are still listening, thank you so much. Appreciate you being here. And look, this is, I mean, there's a lot of people talking and having a good time in the background because they're engaged with one another.
Right.
This is, we're doing some work here. You know, it's talking, but we're doing some work here. We've made some connections. The connection between Circle the City and Valley del Sol. My goodness, that just came up on the light rail ride here.
Yeah.
And a similar connection between Circle the City and Chrysalis came up on the light rail ride. So just having these groups of people together, having these individuals that represent these different organizations together, have created some opportunities that didn't exist before tonight.
Yeah. Well, thank you for letting me be a part of it, and thank you for all the amazing people I had a chance to meet tonight, along with you. It's been an honor. Really has. And, I look forward to the breakfast. I look forward to you getting a tour with Rick down at the Keys to Change campus, and you can get that by going to hidp.org.
Exactly right.
You can also donate.
Yeah. Thank you, Jim.
You're welcome.
We're going to uncomfortably now walk over and close the computer so that we go offline.
Right.
This will be good.
And then we'll have to remember to turn the mics off too, because then they'll be able to hear us.
Appreciate the patience, because that's what I want to make sure that nothing went down during the 3 hours.
How do I like turn that off? Or do I just close? Like, I don't want to mess anything up.
You're online right now.
No, you're off. Well, bye.